have to test it out, I get weird. I don't know. Because I'm basically just talking to myself. Alright, am I even in the thing? Alright. Am I...
Yeah.
Yeah, this is new. Here. There. I'm not blocking the thing, am I?
Action. You can block the thing.
Okay. Let's move you slightly. Fucking microphone in the way. Alright. You want to introduce yourself to the audience? Just.
I'm Bobby Lane. Hi, guys.
Alright.
I throw paint.
And also performs music.
And then play some music.
Which leads me into the next question. How long have you been throwing... Well, actually, first I'll ask how long you've been playing music, because you have... There's more to throwing paint.
I bought my first guitar on August 28th, 1978. I've been playing ever since, Blake.
Awesome.
Been rocking ever since.
Yeah, and I already know a little bit about far as how you guys started throwing the paint. Would you like to just start talking about that?
My friend Kristen Federer, who's also a great singer, well, not that I'm a great singer, but she's a great singer. She was in Key West while I was there, and she introduced me to a painter. And he was on a fixed income, and he would run out of supplies in the middle of the month, and his caretaker would dope him up, so he wouldn't want to paint anymore. So we felt bad and started collecting wood for him, priming it and feeding it to the old guy. And one day he just had an extra easel set up, and he says, "Bobby, I want you to do exactly what I do." He showed me what he did, and I took it from there. And every time I paint, I think of Bob. Whenever I would talk to him on the phone, he'd say, "Are you painting, Bobby?" And if I didn't have a place to paint, obviously you can't just throw paint anywhere.
I mean, you could, but it's frowned upon.
Yeah. It cost Bob a marriage, I think. But he'd say, "God wants you to paint, Bobby. God wants you to paint." So when I paint, it's kind of like making something nice out of aggression, because you're throwing the paint. And the velocity, of course, has something to do with how it looks. So it reminds me of pitching. When I was a kid, I was a pitcher. And you'd say, "Okay, I want a little bit up there," and you aim and you throw it up there. So that's about what that's all about. I got the stick here to measure the contributions that we get. Right now it's way down here.
Yes.
We're hoping after this videos that it's going to be way up here.
Way up there. This room, actually the reason why I'm filming in here is that this room is also going to be a measure of our contributions, because the idea is that as we get more donations, things are getting done in this room and it's getting more complete. So it won't look like a barren skeleton. I started saying skeleton as a joke, and now I say skeleton just accidentally when I'm trying to say skeleton seriously. It's the price of being an idiot. And far as your music goes, what were your, I mean, obviously for the time period that you were alive, there was a lot to influence you.
Yeah, Beatles for the first thing, I think.
That's me throwing modern music under the bus, by the way.
Well, I think the first thing I remember ever hearing was "Deep in the Heart of Texas." Deep in the heart of Texas. I remember my granddad playing that 78. He taught me how to clap in unison, so that was my first exposure.
Awesome.
And then I had older brothers in the 60s, 70s, so I got all that music, all the 60s and 70s music. And then when I started playing, everybody wanted to play Judas Priest and Iron Maiden, so I wasn't really equipped for that, so I had to learn the language of metal, in order to hang with my buddies and play. So ended up playing thrash bands for like 10 years. And here I am.
Yeah. There's like, to me, whenever I hear your music, there's obviously a lot of influences in there. So like it kind of shines through. Is there anything that you currently listen to, like, that's been like anything more recent, like far as musical influences?
I've been listening to a guy in Texas I met named Jonathan Terrell. He's a great songwriter and singer. He's also in a band called Not in the Faith, a two-piece heavier band. So I'm listening to a lot of his stuff, covering a couple of his songs. And just going back and listening to a lot of old music being here in the record store. You know, just pulling out some old Byrds albums I was listening to the other night, stuff that I'd never heard by the Byrds. And, I mean, it's a dream hanging out in a record store where you can paint and play music.
It's interesting to me, like, even people that grew up during that era of music are still finding, like, albums that they never really listened to. And, like, for me, it's pretty much a no-brainer that, like, there's a lot of old albums that I never listened to. And I think that's a good thing about seeing more people listening to records. Like, the actual composition of an album is kind of a lost art to modern music where everybody just puts playlists on there.
Well, it's nice that sometimes I'll work on the stage on the weekends and breaking down equipment, and it's nice to see people, you know, in their 20s just searching through records, you know. It's nostalgic to me. I used to hang out in record stores.
And outside of performing, creating art, what do you do as far as any other hobbies?
I like the outdoors. I like hiking. I like taking long walks and all that good stuff. Just keeping good cardiovascular fitness for the job, because you know if you have to do a 3-hour show singing, you're going to be in pretty good shape. So you know, right now, basically collecting all the songs I've written in the last year. It's been a transient year, so there are a lot of different towns to collect from. So
You've also you've got a lot of video footage that you've been wanting to put towards just making documentaries with. Have you been working on that, or is that like still an up in the air project?
there are two particular documentaries that I hung out with a guy named Kent Finley in San Marcos, Texas, and he was well known for running a singer-songwriter venue where George Strait got his start. Stevie Ray Vaughan did a lot of his earliest gigs. And he was a special guy, and he had a night every Wednesday that my partner Ruby and I would go to, and we'd play our original songs. And we actually moved down there just so we could be a part of that whole scene for a little while. And I got to know Kent and interviewed him a lot and became his friend. And as he got, you know, respect for me as a songwriter, he opened up. So I've got a lot of great footage on him, as well as my painting mentor, who I was talking about in Key West. He was an interesting guy. He was in the TV show Rawhide in the 60s. He took Clint Eastwood's place for a little while. They gave him a horrible name called Grant Canyon that he wasn't happy about. But his name was Bob Windish, and I've got hundreds of hours on Bob. He's a really interesting character. He told me a great story about running a gallery in Key West, and he and his art buddies had a contest to see who could do the most upsetting painting. So this was the early 60s, so Bob painted a Cuban, I think with Castro with a pitchfork going into a pig with an American flag on it. And he put it in the window of his gallery, and the police chief called and said that he had to take this painting out of the window because the Cubans were going to burn the building down. So the cops actually took the painting, they arrested his painting, and Bob took it, he got it at the police station, and he said the police captain told him, you better get rid of this damn thing, this thing's nothing but trouble. So he took it to a friend's boat. They live on boats down there, a lot of guys do. So he took it and put it on his friend's boat. So apparently the Cubans found out where this thing landed, and they burned the boat flat out to the waterline. So this guy ended up homeless who had the boat, and he wandered out, I guess, had a few drinks and wandered train tracks and ended up killing himself.
Ooh.
So So I said to Bob, you know, have you ever thought about reproducing the painting? He was like, hell no. But it was the most upsetting thing that he ever done.
Yeah.
So I actually,
Probably an overreaction to it.
as we became close friends, one day he just said to me, I've decided I'm going to do it, Bobby. I said, what? He says, I'm going to paint that Castro painting. I'm going to redo it. So I filmed him as he sat there and repainted this painting. And I said, you know, how do you feel? And he said, oh, I feel fine, you know. So it took away all the stress he had about it. So he gave me the painting, which I took to where I was living on a houseboat with Cubans as neighbors. And I had it in my little living area there, and all of a sudden these friendly Cubans were all of a sudden giving me the cold shoulder and stink eye. And they used to go, oh yeah, you know. No, they're just like walking by me. And then I realized that painting was visible from the outdoors, and it was still affected people 50 years later. So I got rid of it. I still have the painting, but I got it out of there.
You just don't have it displayed for Cubans to see.
No.
I imagine Cubans don't feel particularly thrilled with any images of Castro.
Yeah, and it's you know, it just shows the power of art. You know, small example of power of art.
Can make people build buildings or burn them down.
I've written songs that have gotten me evicted from places I was living. I got threats, lawsuits over songs. And, you know, I've been disinvited to whole towns over songs. People got to lighten up. I thought you guys got to lighten up out there. It's just, you know, it's art, man. You know, and right now donations are way down here. We gotta get them. We gotta get them up there. Build these bands a damn place to practice. Get them off the streets. Because they're not there just hanging out at the porn store. They're just drinking. They get them down here.
Yeah, they're just
playing some damn music.
Disaster, really.
It's gonna be the key to the Morgantown scene. Is getting 5 bands practicing at the same time down here.
What do you feel about our current music scene downtown?
I don't really know too much about it because since I've been back in town, I've just been doing some shows and mostly working on my music here. So I haven't gotten out and around too much. So I can't really judge it, but I think a lot of it's gonna be, this is gonna be a catalyst, obviously.
Yeah. If
this works, definitely. It always helps. Because guys will get together, girls will get together, never played before, and they'll start other bands. It's going to be great. Just, you know, maybe there'll be dogs too. Balloons.
There's always room for balloons. And that sort of more or less answers my other question about as far as if there's any room for improvement downtown and how we accommodate our local artists, or what can be done to better accommodate those artists if there are, or if there is more that can be done.
Well, I think everything necessary is right here in the Morgantown Art Party. Got a stage here, got potential rehearsal spaces for bands, and spaces for artists to paint and do whatever they do. And I think on the stage upstairs. So, you know, I think everything is right here, and it's just down to let's get it together, you know, and everybody be cool about it and police themselves. It'll work.
Yeah, and you know, as long as we have the funds and the means to do it, yeah, that's kind of the goal. Of course, you know, we also want downtown events. Arts Walk's always a huge thing. More stuff like that, or actually, because you were at Tanner's Alley last Arts Walk. What are your thoughts on how that went?
It was definitely upstaged by the roving jazz band, as everybody was. You know. It was very cool. It reminded me of big city Saturday night kind of street performers, and that was very cool.
Yeah.
I didn't really want to let loose with the bar room show up there at Tanner's Alley. It was, a lot of,
No. And
but it was cool.
that's the thing. You're pretty conscious of who your audience is. Like what, like how do you typically read a room whenever you go into it, or enter an establishment that you haven't performed at? Like how do you measure what someone's reaction is going to be?
I like to listen to the conversations sometimes while I'm setting up, just take in what people are talking about, what's going on in the town, and you can tell whether the establishment is a pleasant place to work or there's friction, obviously. So you can get a tone, you can get a communal kind of sense of humor out of a place, or if they're children and family, obviously, you're gonna do a more mellow G-rated kind of thing, and try and entertain the kids too, make them want to play music someday.
And you've played out of country too. Like, you want to go into that experience, or like how that differs from performing?
Well, if you're ever going to book gigs in England, get a good guarantee, because there are no tips whatsoever. Expecting took a lot of low guarantees, and transportation was high, so just a little tip for you there. Ireland was really nice. Ireland, playing on the street, they really appreciate American music, and it's a pleasant place. I think they're living the American dream actually over there in Ireland. They're pretty happy and pleasant.
Awesome. And of course you were also in Nashville.
Yeah. Yeah, I love Nashville. Being surrounded by singers, songwriters, it was great. It's just constantly engaging and inspiring. Wrote a lot of songs.
Sid and Craig, have you talked to them? They used to be in Nashville. Have you ever talked to them about it? Like, just discussed it?
Just that we miss it.
Yeah.
It was fun. It was cool to be a part of that scene, but things happen, and it's expensive to live down there.
Oh yeah. That's what I hear from them.
So sometimes you just got to keep hopping, but that's cool too, because you end up in different towns and take in different scenes. So there was another documentary that's important I wanted to mention, and that was the closing of an arts community in Austin back in 2011. There were some bungalows there called the Wilson Street Cottages that were really affordable, and it was filled with musicians and artists. It was like $500 a month. You could have a bungalow in South Austin. And everybody, when I moved in there with my partner, shortly after, there was 30 days notice to vacate, and they built condos on top of it. So I kind of did a little documentary on the last 30 days of this, and everybody's sort of desperation and that thing. So that's another one, but it just takes time. You got to buy time and have a good space to work on it every day.
It's definitely like so much stuff that you want to get done. It's just a matter of. And plus, I mean, like, as far as being a musician and an artist, you're constantly doing paintings, or you have what gigs do you have coming up? Do you have
I like working enough to have the free time to do my art and just walk outside and just live. I don't really get too hung up in making big money, or don't aspire to buy land or anything. Just do enough to be able to be free and create. So I'll work, if I can work one day a week, I'm happy. As long as it pays a little bit. As long as you guys take the tip jar around.
No. I know you've been performing Grafton. Where have you been performing for the Sunday shows? Or
Well, it's a pool hall that I used to love to go to ever since I moved to Morgantown. I had an old girlfriend I lived with, and we used to go down to Grafton and hang out. we thought it was pretty romantic place, actually.
Awesome.
So when I started playing solo, one of the first places I played was that pool hall, and it was kind of scary because I hadn't played solo in like 16 years. So I used to play by myself in the 90s, but I was in the Weed Hawks, which was at the lowest a duo. And sometimes we had 4 people. So that was one of the first places I played in, and the owner's dad loved it so much. He came out at the end of the show to give me a big hug, and he fell over all my gear, and we thought he was gone. We thought he was a goner. But he said, we said, what can we do to help you? He said, sing Hank Williams' last song. He said, sing the last song Hank ever sang. So we had the Google team there. So what's the last song Hank ever sang? And they said it was I Saw the Light. So we all sang I Saw the Light. And, pretty much been a part of the Pool Hall family ever since then. So the stick, in other words, is way down here, way up here.
That actually, I don't think I've ever asked you this. Like, when would your like where was your first gig at? Do you recall like the location?
I sure do. It was very exciting. It was at a place called Picardi's, Picardis. And it was in Waterford, Connecticut. And I was in a band called Fallen Angel. And not to be confused with Graham Parsons' band. This was a different Fallen Angel. And we played like Aerosmith songs and Led Zeppelin songs and some old rock and roll songs. But yeah, man, so being 19, oh man, being in a band, that's pretty exciting.
Now, did it take you a while to come up with like your own sound? Like far as like when did you start recording like original material?
1981. It's the first songs that I recorded. I used to just make up other words to songs of the day, songs that were on the radio. I'd make up alternate words, make my buddies laugh or whatever. But then when I started playing, it was difficult for me to learn other people's songs, so I'd get a little piece of it and then I'd make up my own bit. That's how a lot of songwriters start, I think. You start by learning a little bit of a Deep Purple song, and you just make it into your own song. So that's where I started.
As far as your songwriting goes, it feels like it comes together pretty organically, just from like really natural places.
It does now. After so many years of doing it, it just kind of becomes a natural way of emoting almost. Some days, everything I think of comes out in the form of a verse, because you're just so conditioned to it. Which is great, because you can just sit down and let the tape roll or whatever and play for a couple of hours, and I'll go through it and I'll find 4 or 5 pieces of songs there.
Right.
So, but there's not a lot of money in songs these days.
Yeah. So
I think a lot of people are doing a lot more live performances, getting a little bit more theatrical maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So so this is important. We got a stage up here. People can work on their show down here in the basement, and then they can go up on the stage up there and do their thing. It's going to be great.
And like, what would you say to like younger songwriters who don't have a lot of experience in it, like far as
don't hold back, and don't ever ask anybody what they think of your song. I had the best advice from a high school music teacher. He noticed I had some talent. He held me behind after class and he said, hey, if you ever decide you want to be a musician, I think you got the skills. He says, but here's my only advice. And the guy looks up and down the hall in the school and he says, don't fucking listen to anybody. And that was the best advice I ever got. So, and that's what I would say to young guys. Don't fucking listen to anybody. Whatever you want to write, man, just girl, just write it. Fuck it. If it scares people, then it's great. If it upsets people, then it's great. But that's what I would say. And if it really upsets people, send it to me so I can hear it.
It's good advice.
It's from the heart. It's from the kill zone.
And like something that I notice with like not just songwriters or musicians, but with pretty much any artist is there's this habit that virtually everyone has where they'll go through and just like obsess over something that they did so much to where like whether it be with recordings or with writings, like there'll be a band that'll record something and it'll sound perfect, and then they'll just want to keep going and trying to change it or fix it because you're always finding flaws with anything that you ever do. It's like this weird obsession that artists get, and I don't know if there's like, do you have any good suggestions for getting away from that habit?
I think a lot of times it's fear of completion. Fear of coming to the end and having people judge it. Because that's pretty heavy moment there when you're working on an album with your band or whatever, and then you're handing it out to your mom and your aunts and your buddies, and so I think a lot of times we don't want to finish yet. We want to just do the best we can, and when we keep going over it and over it, sometimes we shave off the edges that make it exciting. Because I think it's important to get songs as early as you can, because you've got the original feel. Because as you get playing songs a lot, they sort of homogenize and they round off the edges like that. So, but I've always been the guy just hey man, first take, spit it out. Who cares? You know what I mean? So,
yeah,
we're all different.
I feel like art should at least be a little messy, like. It being something being perfect is always going to feel a little bit more manufactured, which I mean it's all anything recorded in a studio is manufactured anyway, to some extent. But
I was touring with a death metal band, a grindcore band actually called Real Truth when Nirvana's Nevermind came out, and we all had friends in the record label, so they gave us a tape 2 months in advance of anybody hearing this album. We were just listening to it every day going, wow, what a great album. And we picked up one of the guys from Napalm Death at the airport. He came over from England, and we were driving to Rhode Island playing this album, and Danny Loker was the bass player. And he asked him, says, hey, what do you think of that album, Nathan? He's like, it's not brutal enough. It's just, yeah. Guess it's what you're looking for, baby.
Yeah. Speaking of brutal, what's do you have any stories from your experience with punk rock music that you want to share?
Well, I always had a good sense of when shit was about to just fall apart and go crazy. So I always had a rule in my band that, number one, don't say anything bad about anybody. And number two, when it's time to go, get in the van, doesn't matter who you're talking to, grab your shit and go, we're going. So the first tour I did with this young band, there was a girl bass player named Sonia, she's a great bass player. We played in Richmond, and the sound engineer was pretty inept. He's one of these older guys that just hates life and drinks way too much coffee, and he was messing up our intro tapes and everything. So the next night we were in Baltimore, and there's a nice lady running a club who was handing us coupons for Burger King and all these restaurants. And she says, where were you guys last night? And Sonia says, oh, we were in Richmond. Oh, how was that, hon? She said, oh, sound guy was just a major douchebag. And the lady goes, oh, Vinny, that's my baby. And she points behind Sonia, and there's a fucking painting of this guy. It's her son on the wall. And but it's not the punk rock side of it, but it's knowing when shit's about ready to go crazy and getting out of there. And many, many times I heard, catching up with people on a show, oh, dude, just after you guys left, man, all fucking hell broke loose, dude. You can just sense it when that shit's about to happen. But I've always tried to be responsible, if shit's going crazy in the audience, to, hey, let's chill out and, do the Mick Jagger thing, like brothers and sisters. That doesn't work too good.
Doesn't go over so well then.
No, no. Yeah, I remember seeing one of the greatest punk rock shows was Agnostic Front, SOD at the Ritz in New York. Agnostic Front pit just was the whole floor of the Ritz. It was just the craziest shit I've ever seen. So I went up in the balcony, and SOD came on, and Billy Milano, the singer, jumped about 100 feet off of the PA speaker onto the audience. There's a DVD of this show actually. So then about 5 songs in, there's people getting thrown off the stage, and he's yelling at them. He's like, "Come on, you guys, you're gonna be taking other people's safety at risk, And it's like, dude, you just jumped fucking 200 feet.
Dude.
So that was a pretty cool punk rock moment. Yeah, I'm fortunate meeting Joey Ramone at CBGBs and shaking his hand. Yeah, he came walking in with 2 gorgeous blondes. They may have been transvestites actually, because they were very tall, but if they were gorgeous transvestites. So went up and shook his hand. Kind of a little bird-like handshake, but it was a thrill to meet him.
I'm just trying to picture what Joey Ramone's handshake was of.
Yeah, it was a little bony.
Yeah.
God bless him.
So, as far as places that you perform, like, what part of the country do you tend to prefer?
For performing,
Yeah.
I loved Nashville. Nashville was very receptive to what I was doing. I think I stood out as a writer a lot down there. So that was great. Austin was really great. Just got over very well down there. Writer town, writer scenes, usually singer-songwriter scenes. Texas is very sympathetic to singer-songwriters. They have a lot of no-tolerance policies in a lot of venues about talking, so guys get to tell their stories, and, without a bunch of drunken men, gay fella! You're like, hey. It was on something there. So, yeah, Texas and
Something
Texas
I've
is cool.
noticed, having to, shush audiences. It's
It's sometimes just the most rural pub, a bar that you just stop in on, because a lot of times when you're on the road, you just stop in a place with a guitar case, and you try to look cool and have somebody challenge you to play it, so then you can send a tip jar out, A lot of those, just rural places where nobody ever plays music, and you get to know people and hear a couple wacky stories. Those are my favorites too. Playing to sometimes less than 10 people are some of the greatest times. Yeah, I know, that's my audience, right? These guys are laughing at me. This young guy was trying to hurt my feelings the other day, and he called me Neil, not so young. I thought that was a good one, man. Neil, not so young.
But isn't Neil Young also old? What's
Sonic Youth,
I'm trying to figure out the joke.
Well, he's Neil. He's his own entity. So this is exciting here. This is a great opportunity for the town to really bloom artistically, I think. I feel like, I may not be here to see it through with you, but, it's right now it's awesome. The possibilities.
Yeah.
Just gotta get behind it, help these great folks here. And get some bands down here practicing, get them off the streets. Very important, get them away from their girlfriends so their girlfriends can go out and hang out with other guys.
Or boyfriends.
Or boyfriends, so the boyfriends can go hang out with other girls. And it's kind of drama that leads to great songs. All right, I guess I'm getting to the silly point here.
What are we at? How much? Oh, shit, we're like 37 minutes.
Well,
I didn't realize.
So
I was thinking it would be like at least like 15 minutes
Time.
shorter on time.
Time flies when you're having fun, you know.
So I went through some silly takes of me attempting to read our end of video script and even handed it to Danielle last time.
Sure. You do whatever you want.
That,
There's something else you want to ask.
I'm probably just going to do a voiceover of the end of video script. Although I think I'm probably just going to make it a habit of just having people read it because.
Okay, let me see. Let's get my glasses on. There it is.
Yeah, keep in mind that I wrote it with the intention of it being myself or whoever was doing the interview, so the insert name here was supposed to be me, but it can be you.
Sure.
Just up until
Okay.
that.
Thanks for watching. If you like this video and you'd like to see more like it, consider supporting us on Patreon. And that's this man right here is doing so much work. Support him. Not only will it help us produce more content like this, but the majority of your contribution will go towards building practice spaces for bands like the one we're sitting in. And we got to get these guys up the streets. Right. Don't mean to embellish. It's important. Get them down here practicing. If you want to know more about this, you can follow the links. I guess I wasn't supposed to read that one. But
no, it's fine.
this is a nonprofit organization, and so all your contributions are tax deductible.
They are.
And you can follow us on Facebook. Keep up to date on upcoming shows and events. There's a show coming up on the 15th of December.
There is.
I've
It's
heard
to
of it.
help animal friends.
Roller Ghoster, Aggravator, and other fun acts.
And if you want to know more about Bobby Lane here, you could follow him on.
You can come down. Just come down to the
Okay.
basement. We'll throw paint and we'll hang out.
Also, you have a YouTube channel, and
I do. Bobby Lane's West Virginia is the current one.
yeah, I will include a link at the bottom of the video.
Okay.
And until next time, this is Blake Campbell from Morgantown Art Party, and
Bobby Lane from the depths
we're,
of Retrotique.
we're signing off.